sitting alone in this empty room I cry, waiting for an angel to visit in the night. I pray and I pray, but the demons don't subside. I wake up in the morning, see my life through my new eyes. The vision is clear, I'm making all things right. Tighten the screws, cause last night I almost died. I'll see you in the morning, I'll save you. Come on.
Good morning, it is Tuesday. How you doing? Tacky Tuesday, yes. I love Tacky Tuesday. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I'm ready for the week to be over already.
I'm with you.
Yes, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, I know people are pissed in Texas right now. You heard what the governor did, right?
Oh, Lord, now what?
No, he did a good thing.
What did he do?
He stopped the transition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he stopped it. He said if you're getting about the transition, you need to stop. He put a pause on all transitioning. No more transitioning. He stopped it.
Good.
Well, that'll save us a lot of money.
Yeah, no kidding.
Give it up to him. Yes, Texas.
Tell them that now they can move to California.
Yes. About time. When everybody wake up, goddammit. What's taking everybody to wake up?
I left California because they're nuts out there.
I can't even be talking about this. This is cuckoo.
You know, I mean, personally, I don't get it. You know, it's your life. You do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, but when you get grown.
When you're grown, leave kids out of it.
You know how many things I wanted to be as a child? I wanted to be Superman. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted different things.
I wanted to be non, so.
Yeah,
Jack gets it.
I got mad when they took the boots away, and then I had to start buying airplane tickets again.
Now you can be anything you want to be in America. Anything.
I want to
dog,
be rich.
A cat, a giraffe, a monkey. Only in America, ladies and gentlemen. Only in America can you be whatever you want to be and get away with it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Jack the Giant O'Haron. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Boxer, actor, sir.
Author.
Oh, author. See, I missed that part. See,
Yeah.
The football part, too.
Yep. He was going to be a cowboy.
What? See? Sir.
He was going to be a Dallas Cowboy.
Oh, no.
Hey, watch it.
Oh, man. Sir, how do I even start? Let's start from the beginning. So what happened first? Was the football first? Boxing? What author?
I was, when I was in school, you're talking back in the 60s, and they had a rule that you couldn't play professional until your class graduated, which they should still have, because too many kids get hurt. They're too young to be playing. They had a rule that you had to wait till your class graduated before you could play professional. So I left school after my freshman year, and there was a league on the East Coast. I was picked up by the New York Jets right away. And there was a league on the East Coast that all of us that came out of school early, we played in. It was like a semi-pro, like a farm team for different teams,
Okay.
And then when it came eligible for me to play, I was up in New York, and I said, a lot of friends of mine were down in Philly. I said, I'd like to get down and play with Philadelphia. And they wanted me down there badly. And Dallas wanted me and a couple other places. And I went down to Philadelphia, and they sold the team to a guy named Jerry Wallman, and he hired a fool named Joe Q. Harrick as a coach. And this guy traded away a championship football team. I mean, who trades Sonny Jurgensen and Tommy McDonald to Washington for Norm Snead, who couldn't play a little bit,
Well, we thank you.
He kept trading people. And, Timmy Brown and I come out of a meeting one day, and he walked right by us. And I said, Q Herrick, you don't talk to nobody. What's your problem? Well, I said, you know what? While you're at it, take this team and stick it up your. Muhammad Ali just won the title, and I said to some friends of mine in Philly, I can beat that clown. And I wound up in the gymnasium, and I couldn't box amateur because I was always classified as a professional. And in those days, you couldn't do both.
Right.
You can today, but you couldn't then. So I wound up boxing, and God help the world.
Right.
Then I was 16-0 as a fighter, and I went to get a physical for a fight, and the guy said to me, "You're suffering from acromegaly. You shouldn't be boxing at all." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Acromegaly is a tumor of the pituitary, which creates growth hormone. Your body puts out 10%. Mine was putting out 210. So it drains your body supposedly, and it causes." And I said, "Yeah, well, this is my day job, so guess what? I'm fighting. As long as I can get in the ring, I'm fighting." "Well, you shouldn't be doing it because I don't know how you can get yourself up because it causes mental depression and all kinds of stuff." But Andre the Giant had it, and Richard Keel. Some people, and it'll kill you. It attacks a vital organ in your body, and they give me all the whole medical spiel, and I said, "Yeah, okay."
Right.
That's my day job. So see you later. Goodbye.
Well, it looks like you've been doing very well with it.
Yeah, I got into a few Hall of Fames and a couple things, and Ali and I were signed 4 different times to fight, and it just never happened. I mean, we were when he fought Norton in San Diego, I was a California heavyweight champ. He was coming out there to fight me. I had an agreement with him. We had a contract and everything. He called me up one day on the phone. It's a funny story. He called me up one day on the phone, and he said, "You got to do me a favor." I said, "I'll do you a favor. Sign a contract to fight." He said, "Yeah, no, we're going to get to that, but you got to do me a favor." I said, "What's the favor?" He said, "You're fighting my brother Rockman this week." I said, "Rockman?"
I saw that. Yeah.
He said, "Yeah, that's my brother, and you got to get him out of boxing." I said, "No." I said, "I better go in the gym for a couple of days then."
Right.
So I knocked him out, I think, in the 9th round. He never fought again.
Wow.
In fact, I thought I hit him, but I heard mother was sitting ringside. She's screaming. So I went back in the dressing room to see him afterwards. And he looked to make sure he was okay, because Ali and I are pretty good friends. Awesome. And I went back to make sure he was okay, and I looked at him. He looked at me. He said, "My God, you hit hard." I said, "God, what do you know about God? You're a Muslim, brother." God must have hit you pretty hard. If I knocked you out of the Muslim religion, my God.
You hit him so hard he saw God.
It was,
oh, man.
But,
yeah. So I saw you fought Kid Norton, and I saw you fought George Foreman.
I fought Norton. Here's a good for you. I'm
Who
in the
hit
East
you
Coast.
hardest?
I was on the East Coast in New Jersey, and I had 6 indictments against me for union business. And the guy called me on the phone. He says, "You want to fight Ken Norton?" I said, "When?" He said, "Next week." I said, "Send me a ticket." He says, "You'll take the fight?" I said, "Send me a ticket." I went out to California, and I think I trained about 4 days for the fight.
Wow.
And we had I busted his eyes up. Pretty good. The 9th round of the fight, the referee's ringing the bell, and nobody heard it. So people were standing on the chair screaming. So he rang it 3 times. They finally separated us, and I was going back to my corner, and Kenny ran across the ring and hit me behind the head and drove me into the ring post. And the commissioner was sitting in my corner. He jumped up and he said, "If you can't continue, you just won the fight." I said, "Continue. I'll kill this." And I should have sat on a stool because I was in his hometown. It was dumb. So, but anyway, I went out and he got a split decision, which really was a bum because it was a hometown thing. He was owned by 2 very wealthy millionaires. So but I won the town. The people went crazy. So I stayed there, and I knocked out a half dozen guys and won the California. Beat a guy no one wanted to fight, Henry Clark, and took the California title from him. And then Ali and I were getting together, and he was going to fight Norton. Ali was coming to fight. He and I were going to get in a fight, and And Norton's people were wealthy people. And they went to Chicago with $2 million and gave it to Herbert Muhammad. And all of a sudden, Ali's fighting Norton. And Ali called me on the phone crying. He said, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but he said, it's out of my control, but we'll get it on, blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, okay. So a couple of years later, I fought a guy named Alvin Blue Lewis from Detroit, who had just won 13 rounds with Ali in Ireland. And then he came home and he beat Terrell and he beat another guy, and they were getting ready for another title fight. So they figured if they got by me, they could get a title fight. So a guy called me from Detroit and he said, Jack, you want to fight Alvin Blue Lewis? And I said, when? He said, next week. I said, send me a ticket. I said, can I get a license? Because California had revoked my license for organized crime or some jazz. I don't know. Dreaming. But so he said, yeah, no problem. Get your license. Come on out here. So I beat Alvin Blue Lewis terrible. Beat him 10 out of 10. and then I went up to Ali's camp and up in Pennsylvania. And I said, okay, Pappy, time us to play. And he said, Jack, let me ask you a question. He said, if I give you a title fight, are you really going to try and beat me? I said, let me tell you something. I said, for the first time in my career, I'm going to go away to camp for 6 weeks like you guys do. When you come in the ring, bring a gun. He said, 2 steaks, please. So he took, this is Ali. Ali is a good person. Ever met him one-on-one. He was a terrific individual. He said, come here, let's go in this room. So we went in this back room up at his training camp, and all the press are there because they're all waiting for him for us. So, and he said, shut the door. And he said, come on, Jack. We're kicking the door and punching. They think we're in there fighting. He's screaming, yelling, and I'm yelling, and he's punching. We're kicking and scratching on the door and stuff. And we open the door to go back out in the room, and all these press guys are, their mouths are wide open, looking, waiting to see who was busted up and stuff. And Ali's laughing like hell. And he said, well, you guys can't even take a joke or what? What's the deal? So when I got boxing, I retired. They tried to get me in the film business. In 1967, Steve McQueen came to Boston to do the Thomas Crown Affair. And we watched over him. I took care of him. We became very good friends. He wanted me, you got to come down. I put you in the movie. You got to come back to Hollywood. I said, I don't think so. I'm undefeated as a heavyweight, and I'm looking to fight for the title. No. He said, come to Hollywood. The hell with that shit. And I said, I don't think it's going to work out. So he went back home. And then I went out in 1969 and knocked out a guy named Manuel Ramos, who was ranked number 2 in the world. And I knocked him out in L.A., and they came to me to do The Great White Hope with James Earl Jones. And they talked to Raymond Patriarca in Rhode Island, Eddie Foy from Fox, and they put a deal together, they thought. And they flew me out to meet the producer and the director and all this stuff. Guy said, he's telling me, you're going to go to Spain for 6 months and blah, 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 blah. I said, whoa, wait a minute. I said, I just knocked out the number 2 heavyweight in the world. And I'm looking to fight.
Right.
You want me to go to Spain for 6 months? He said, well, I thought this deal was already made. You're only supposed to come in here and sign a contract. I said, okay. I'm going to Spain for 6 months. Well, how much money are you paying me? He said, we're going to give you $2,000 a week. And that was a lot of money in those days, I guess,
Right.
$2,000 a week. I said, $2,000 a week. I give that away in tips. You ain't giving me nothing. I said, there's a guy named Jim Beatty. He just retired. He's up in Minneapolis, and he's got 6 kids to feed. Give him a job. Well, you're not going to. I said, I'm sorry. I got to leave you. See, bye. And before he grabbed me, I got outside. He said, oh, my God, you're going to get us killed. Raymond wanted you out of the country, keep you out of trouble. He said, you're turning this thing down? I said, I'll take care of Raymond. Don't worry about it. I'm leaving the studio, and James Earl Jones is coming up the steps, and I'm going down the steps at Fox. And he stopped me, and he said, you're Jack O'Halloran. And I said, well, you're James Earl Jones. He said, is it true what I just heard about you? I said, well, what did you just hear? He said, that you told Hollywood to take the biggest movie and stick it because it was a big film. I said, well, I guess if you want to look at it that way, yeah. So I got to shake your hand. I never met anybody that did that before. And we became pretty good friends. James Earl Jones was a good
guy.
So then when I retired from boxing, they called me on the phone. I had an agent in San Diego who was doing a lot of commercials and stuff. She called me on the phone. She said, Jack, they're looking for you to do a film, and I think you should do it. I said, what film? I said, Farewell, My Lovely with Robert Mitchum. I looked around where I was at. I had a couple construction companies, and I said, maybe it's time I give this thing a shot. So they flew me out to Hollywood to do a screen test, and I did it with Harry Dean Stanton and a couple other people. And Mitchum saw the screen test, and he said, it's either him or I don't do the movie. So I blame it all on Robert Mitchum.
Wow. Huh.
Who was a hell of a guy. He became like a father. He was like a mentor. He was a trippy man.
Right,
really
right.
Good time. You never see Farewell, My Lovely? If you haven't, you should. It's a great film.
I gotta definitely check it out. Definitely. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Champ. Out of all your fights, who hit you the hardest?
The guy that hit me the hardest, I'll tell you the truth, and thank God I was in shape. Cleveland Williams. Cleveland Williams hit me a left hook. My God, man. I felt it in my toes.
Oh, my.
I fell back into the corner. He came rushing at me, so I thumbed him and cuffed him and spun him around. I whispered in his ear, you're not touching me the rest of the night, sunshine, so get used to getting hit.
Man, I never hit that hard.
He was from Houston, Texas.
Hard.
I mean, he hit me. I swear to God, I could feel my toes. So the reason why I fought Cleveland Williams was that I had fought a kid named Terry Daniels, who was from Texas, fought out of Texas, but he was from Ohio, and he was ranked in I think number 4 or something. I think I was ranked 6. He was 4 or something. And they were looking for a guy to fight Frazier, and they wanted a white guy to fight him in Houston Astrodome. So they called me up. Lou Viscusi called me up. He said, you want to fight this kid, Terry Daniels? I said, send me a ticket. So I flew out to Houston. He got off the plane. He said, my God, you're in shape. I said, well, aren't you supposed to be in shape when you come to a fight? So I destroyed this kid. I knocked him out in 3 rounds. I hurt him bad. And then I flew back to Philly with Yank Durham on the phone, on the plane. And Yank said to me, you beat one more good fighter and you can have the Frazier fight. I said, I'll tell you what, you name the place, the time, send me a ticket. He said, are you serious? I said, I'm telling you, you pick the fighter, the place, the time, send me a ticket. So they called me up a week later and said, you want to fight Cleveland Williams in Houston, Texas? I said, good, send me a ticket. So I stayed in shape and went down to fight Cleveland Williams and beat Cleveland Williams pretty bad. Terry Daniels got the Frazier fight. Cleveland Williams fought George Savallo. Nobody wanted to fight me when I got in shape. The problem was, but I don't know. What could I tell you? That's life in the big city. Right. So I went in the movie business, and it just went one film after the other. Farewell, My Lovely, King Kong. It just kept on rolling down the street. Right. I kept calling Mitchum on the phone. I said, see what you did to me?
That's a very strange transition because out of all the boxers that I follow, I've never met a boxer that transitioned from boxing to movies. Usually you're too ugly to transition. Your face is too messed up, so you can't do movies. So
that's why I played
how did that transition happen? So you was already going to movies before boxing? How did that all work out?
That worked. I mean, it was great. I mean, I had Mitchum, to have Robert Mitchum as a mentor. Okay. I remember when I was doing Farewell, My Lovely, and we did it off the Sam Goldwyn studio a lot. And I was in the production office one day, and I was leaving. At the gate was where the editor was. He had his offices right by the gate there. And the guy stopped me. He said, "You're Jocko Howard?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what's the deal?" He said, "I'm sitting here editing this picture of Farewell, My Lovely." He said, "This is the first movie you've ever done?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I got to tell you, kid, you're going to be a star." I said, "Really? Thank you very kindly." So back to Mitchell, and I went to Robert Mitchell, and I said, "Man, maybe we should. I should go to UCLA and do some elocution or acting lessons or something of that nature." And he laughed like hell, and he said, "Stick with me, kid. You'll fart through silk. Don't worry about a thing. You're doing fine. You go to that place, they'll ruin you, or you'll ruin them. One or the other. Just keep on doing what you're doing." And it worked out. When I did Farewell, My Lovely, friends of mine from Boston and New York, from the families, called me on the phone and said, "They paid you to do that movie?" I said, "What are you talking about, man?" He said, "That was just you walking down the street." I said, "Well, that's what Mitchum told me to do, so what can I tell you?"
All right. Oh, man.
It worked out pretty well.
Right. So from there, ladies and gentlemen, let's tell the movies that his brother been in. Liberty, Abduct, Dark Ascension, Spider-Man 1, Superman 1 and 2, The Flintstones. He was in the Flintstones.
Yeah. The Flintstones. I tell you, it was a good movie. It was Hearing the Terror with Chuck Norris. It was a good movie.
Yeah, Perry Mason, Mob Boss, Hero and the Terror, Dragnet.
Yeah, Dragnet with Danny Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. I was Emil Muzz.
Yes.
He chased me around all night.
Yes, the Baltimore Bullet.
Baltimore Bullet was a great film with Jimmy Caan and Omar Sharif.
King Kong.
King Kong was, Jessica Lange. I said the very first words of the movie.
And of course, Farewell, My Lovely. long resume, ladies and gentlemen. Long resume. So you went from movies to now an author. When did you start writing?
Well, I had a very famous father. My father was a guy called Albert Anastasia, who was probably the original Godfather. Albert was the head of Murder Inc.
Okay.
In New York. And Albert came from Italy, and he was the most feared Italian that ever came in the country. And it was the Anastasia family, and Carlo Gambino was his underboss. And they went to Albert when Genovese came back out of Italy and into America. They all were starting to get into the drug business. And Albert controlled all the docks, and he said, not a good idea. It's like when Brando in The Godfather, when they went to Brando, and Brando said, if we touch it, our children will touch it. It'll be the downfall of the families. My father said that. And he said, we that's not a business for us to be in. And they all were, so he got assassinated in 1957. And they tried to kill Frank Costello. And Costello walked away. And what Albert said was very true, and they made a very bad mistake. They realized after they killed him, because he was the glue that held everything together. So from 1957, you look in the records from 1957 on, the family started falling apart because they were getting in the drug business. They started killing each other, and it was greed and hunger, all that jazz. And
right,
if they had never touched the drug business, imagine how strong the mafia would have been today.
Right. And
it was I got to tell you something. People could say whatever they want, but when they ran the cities, you didn't have the crime you got now. When I was a kid raised in Philadelphia, we never locked our front door. People laid out in the backyard in the summertime because they didn't have any air conditioning, so they laid out in the backyard in cots and stuff, and nobody ever bothered anybody. You know, you never heard of drive-by shootings and shit like that. That stuff, you wouldn't dare do certain things in neighborhoods. People would just jump all over you, boy. So it was a whole different scenario, you know?
Right. So
it was back in the 60s. If you go back to like in 1960, 61, 62, all the way up into the 60s, there were 4 of the wealthiest men in the world lived right in Texas. And they could have seceded from America. That's how wealthy. I mean, you had George and Herman Brown, which was Brown Root, which is today Halliburton. And George and Herman Brown built, there was a guy in Austin, Texas, had power of the pen for all the federal contracts. So they took the Houston Harbor, and they built, after World War I, America became war-bearing country. So they started building destroyers and warships. And George and Herman Brown Root, in 1939, had accumulated about $950 million, which was a lot of money in those days. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they used to come and watch me fight. And when I fought down in Houston, I fought in Dallas and I fought in Houston, and they were the 4-H club, you know, H.L. Brown, H.L. Hunt, and the Brown brothers, and a couple other people. And the guy that was the wealthiest guy was Clint Murchison Sr., was one of the wealthiest men in the world. And his son, who owned the Dallas Cowboys, and the stadium they played in, and a lot of the ground around it, and but he was kind of a crazo. So they had a party down at his house the night before Kennedy got killed, and I was sent down there on the premise I was going to play for the Dallas Cowboys because he owned the Cowboys. And Mayor Lansky set up for me to go there to educate me, because I'm seeing 4 presidents there, and McCoy, who owned all the banking in New York, and saw exactly how the premise was coming down. And Johnson came back. They all went into a room, and The next day, I was there. I was in Dallas the day Kennedy got killed.
Wow. Huh.
I was out running that morning, and I was supposed to have left. Johnny Mazzelli was running. He was out doing his road work. And Johnny Mazzelli took the first shot that hit Kennedy. He was in a cauldron on the long side of Dealey Plaza. It took them 3 months to reroute that thing, the whole thing down there.
Wow.
They blamed the CIA, they blamed the mafia, they blamed the Teamsters for killing Kennedy, and it wasn't any of them. The guy who orchestrated was the first thing he ever orchestrated, Carlos Sanchez, was the Jackal. You ever heard of the Jackal from Europe? He was the big assassination guy in Europe. It was the first assassination he orchestrated in America, and it was because Jack Kennedy died for the sins of his father. And Jack was not well. He would not have lived out his term. People don't understand that. He was suffering from Addison's disease, which is deterioration of the spine. He had syphilis and 2 other diseases. They used to shoot him up every day. Here you got the president of the United States in an open car and the Byrd Building with the windows open and people walking around.
Right.
They had the train station was there, and there was a walkway that went across Dealey Plaza, and 30 guys came up, hobos and all, and one of them was Woody Harrelson's father, who was a hitter for New Orleans. So there were like 13 people at Dealey Plaza that day could have shot Kennedy. And there was 16 bullets fired, you know. And they talk about the one bullet theory, which is total bullshit. You had a prison right across the street from the Byrd Building, and these guys are looking out the window, and they're looking straight at the Byrd Building. And the window where the rifle was at, there were 3 guys in the window, 2 dark-complected Cubans and a white guy. And you're talking about a mail-order rifle that you got to sit down and think about this now. If you know anything about weapons, talking about a mail-order rifle with no accuracy whatsoever. You're making a shot of 1,000 feet.
Right.
Bolt action rifle. Now, if you're a marksman, you have to arrest your heart, take it down below 60 because your pulse is in your finger.
Right.
You got to trigger. You understand? So, how do you take 4 shots with a bolt action rifle in 28 seconds? Bullshit. With any accuracy, never happened. You understand? If he was going to shoot him from the window, Oswald wasn't even in the building, he was a total patsy. If you're going to shoot him from the window up there, you would have shot him in the back of his head. He would have got hit in the back of the head, not in the front.
Right.
He got hit in the throat first. You see him grab his throat on the Zapruder film, grabs his throat. Conley got shot, and he fell on top of Conley, and in between the 2 seats, he got shot in his lower back, and they never talked about that for 10 years. And then the last guy, the Greer that was driving the car, turned and took the last shot, and you see him fly backwards and the back of his head come out.
Right.
And Jackie was trying to scrape. They said she was trying to scrape his brains. That's bullshit. She was trying to get out of the car because she thought they were going to kill her next.
Right.
And the Secret Service guys, if you ever watch the Zapruder film, the Secret Service guys had peeled away from that car and were behind it when all the gunfire started. And then they were running back up to the car when it stopped, and she was coming out of the car, and they grabbed a hold of her. The guy whispered in her ear, "If you say one word about what you just witnessed, we'll kill your kids." And she never opened her mouth.
Wow.
But she kept a hell of a diary. And that's what got her son killed. Like John Kennedy Jr. he owned a magazine company in New York, and when his mother died, he got a hold of her diary, and he was going to make a movie about it. He was going to go to Hollywood and make a movie. And they rigged the plane, and he crashed, and he died. And, you know, another Kennedy never touched the earth again. They killed Bobby, and then they disgraced Teddy with the Chapekny thing, which was terrible. He let that girl drown. You know, so. But it goes back to the fathers. The fathers started, you got to go back to the Depression. First of all, Joe Kennedy was a super bright guy. Here he's married to Honey Fitzgerald. He married Rose Fitzgerald, who was the daughter of Honey Fitzgerald, who was a gangster from Ireland, who came to Boston and owned the bank, and he became a very wealthy man. And he controlled all the scotch and liquor from Europe. And he dug the Boston Harbor out. And when the Depression happened, In fact, he made Jack Kennedy the youngest president of a bank in the history of the country. And when the Depression happened, Jack Kennedy and a guy from Newark, New Jersey, who owned Fleischmann Liquor, went up to Canada and they had a warehouse and they were bootlegging down into America. And he had a load of booze that was coming down that belonged to a group called the Purple Gang. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but the Purple Gang were a bunch of Jewish killers out of Detroit, which were serious guys. And they had a load of booze coming down, and Joe found a better buyer, and he took it and sold it to them. And the guy said, "You know what, kid, you're a dead man." He ran home to his father-in-law, and his father-in-law said, "I can't help you, sunshine. You got to go to Chicago and talk to that old man out there." And he went to Chicago and sat down with Joe Esposito, who was the first Don over there. And Esposito said to him, "You know, kid, you're a real good earner. You go back to Boston. I'll take care of the Purple Gang. But you belong to us now." And he was under thumb to Chicago from that day on. And they sent him out to Hollywood. He put together the first distribution deal for RKO Studios, all the Jewish theater owners. He got involved with Randolph Hearst. He was chasing every movie star there was out there. You know, and then in 1927, there was a place in Chicago called the Hamilton Club, which was like the New York Athletic Club. It was a political stronghold. And they grabbed Kennedy and they said, "You know, Joe, there's something we want you to do for us." And he stole $5 million from Pathé Newsreel in broad daylight on the stock market. And they said, "That's very, very good. Now, this is what we really want you to do. You got to understand that after World War I, America became a war-bearing country. And we started manufacturing goods and war stuff and took a lot of jobs away from Europe. And Europe was kind of peeved because they weren't getting paid back. All the money they invested into America, they weren't getting their money back." So these guys sat down and they figured that what they did with Kennedy is they put together a short sell. And they aimed it at 30 companies in Europe, one of them being owned by the Rothschilds. It was run by Blackjack Bouvier, Jackie Kennedy's father, which he drank himself to death over when they went bankrupt because of the short sell. And after the short sell was over, Roosevelt went to Kennedy and said, "Boy, you know, kid, you did a great job. Now, what we want you to do now is rewrite the SEC laws," because they knew Europe had to reinvest in the country to get their money back. And when he got done that, they said, "That's another great job you did. Now we're going to make you ambassador to England." And he went to England in 1935, and America wasn't in a war yet. And some people in Chicago grabbed him and said, "Listen, we want you to talk to a few people and tie some things together in Europe." First guy he sits down with is Shah of Iran, who's a gangster, and they lent money to Hitler. And the money to Hitler came back to them. They had a Khashoggi and they sold Hitler weapons. And England said, "Hey, pal, you're aiding our enemy." And Kennedy said, "Well, America's not in the war. What am I doing wrong?" He was making a lot of money. America's not in the war. So they said, you're aiding our enemy. And they threw him out of England. But no one ever knew why he got thrown out, because there was no television then. The radio stations were owned by the Murchison family in Texas. The Gore family owned the papers on the East Coast, and Hearst family owned the papers on the West Coast, and he was friendly with all of them, so no one ever said a word, except he came home as Ambassador Joe Kennedy. Then he wanted his first son to be president. And he went to Giancana. They said, "I'm going to make my son Joe Jr. president of the United States," and this kid was sharp as a tack. Problem was, a group out of Europe put together a thing that they wanted to fly a kamikaze plane into a German munition factory to end the war. So we talked young Joe Kennedy, who only had 14 days before he was out of the service. They talked him into test piloting the plane. The plane blows up, he blows up, he's dead. So now he goes back and he said, "Well, I'm going to make my son Jack president." He went to Giancana, and New York said, "What are you doing, man? Why do we need Kennedy when we already own Nixon?" And Giancana said, "Because his father, we got his father, and he promised us both his ears." And they said, "Well, what are you going to do with that idiot Bobby?" And he said, "Oh, they're going to make him ambassador to Ireland, get him out of the country." Jack's running for nomination in L.A. And Joe Kennedy told Giancana, "Well, we had the electoral votes put together." After 2 days, he called him on the phone. He said, "We're in trouble. We don't have as many electoral." So Illinois, and 2 states next to it for the very first time turned Democrat.
Mm.
The third day, he called them back. He said, well, we still have a problem, but there's one state that can put us over and make Jack get him nominated. Okay. So the state of West Virginia had a lot of electoral votes because of the mining and a lot of money down there. So they called up a guy named Cellini, who owned, with Nyer Lansky, they owned the illegal casinos in West Virginia. And they just excused some debt, and West Virginia raised their hand, and Jack Kennedy gets nominated for presidency of the United States. Mm-hmm. Now he's going to run for president against Nixon. H.L. Hunt sends a guy out to Joe Kennedy with a suitcase full of money to put Johnson on the ticket to run as Kennedy's running mate. Give him a fortune, right? Jack's running for president. Now you talk about what they were talking about, the fixed election with Trump and all these guys with votes.
Right.
I'll tell you what happened when Kennedy was running for president. 4 different counties in Illinois. People in those counties voted 20 times and they were dead. You hear what I said?
I heard
20 times and they were dead. And he won the election by a very narrow, you look it up, he won by a very narrow margin over Nixon. As soon as he became president, his father went and whispered in his ear, he said, make your brother Bobby attorney general. Then he told Bobby, he said, put all my good friends in jail. Now, Jack Kennedy wouldn't have become president without Giancana, and he sent Bobby after Giancana, after Hoffa, after everybody. He just, Kennedy was trying to get out from under thumb. So they wind up killing Jack, they killed Bobby, and they disgraced Teddy. And another Kennedy will never cross the presidential path again, so they say. Who knows?
Wow.
But that's the truth, the whole truth, and I stand on top of the Bible. Yes, sir, that's right.
Wow.
No one ever talks about that. You know what I'm saying? No one ever.
Wow.
But if you look at it's all in the. You can go to a library. It's all there. You look it up. I mean, when Jack was going down to Dealey Plaza, 4 people, one of them Adlai Stevenson, went to Bobby Kennedy and said, "Do not let your brother go to Texas. The animosity down there is horrendous. Do not let your brother go down there." Bobby Kennedy, who was his brother's second skin his whole political career, didn't go before, wasn't there during, and never went afterwards. And you could say, wow, why would Joe Kennedy want his kid to die like that?
Right.
You understand? Instead of dying of a disease, because he didn't want to mark the family with a sickness. And you can say, boy, that's pretty cold. But look what he did to his daughter Rose. His daughter Rose suffered from ADD. He lobotomized her. She sat in a room looking out a window all her life.
Wow.
Bet you didn't know that either, huh?
No, I did not.
Look at that. It's all there. So
I don't think nobody goes to the day.
I decided to write a book called Family Legacy. And the book is about my father. My father, I tell the story about my father, and then I tell the truth about the Kennedy assassination.
Awesome.
So we're getting ready to film it now. It's going to be bigger than The Godfather.
Wow.
It's about the real Godfather.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the Kennedys are running for election this term. What is that? Robert Kennedy?
That's a junior.
That's junior.
Teddy or something. Yeah. Teddy Jr. Never happened.
Yeah. What do you know about him?
He ain't going nowhere. He's a senator. He'll stay being a senator.
You know, I think I like a lot of his views, man. I like a lot what he's saying, man. But he don't have it this year though. He don't got it. He don't got it. So out of the family, are you the only entertainer in the family? Only boxer, actor, author in the family?
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, amazing, isn't it? The only one.
The only one, huh?
Just a country boy.
Did your family approve of you being a boxer?
Say what?
Did your family approve of you being a boxer? Like your mom, did you approve of you being a boxer?
Well, I was a tough kid when I was a kid, and I had a few street fights in my life.
Oh, okay.
And I boxed in the PAL for a little bit when I was younger, and had my mother's stepfather was a guy called Pete Healy, who was a street fighter, that bare knuckles, and a very tough guy. He taught me how to box when I was a kid.
Okay.
I had a heavy bag in my cellar and everything. He taught me how to box, and then so when boxing came up, I said, why not? And here I am, 80 years old. I got all my marbles, no scar tissue, nothing, So I guess I got away with it.
Right. So you didn't do any military time, right? No military time? Did you serve?
No, I was in Vietnam. That's a good story.
Oh.
I was undefeated as a heavyweight. Well, I got married when I was young.
Okay.
And when you got married in those days, back in the 60s, if you got married, you were what they call 1Y. They classified you 1Y. You couldn't be drafted. Yeah.
Okay.
So then my wife and I split up, and I got into boxing and everything. And my mother-in-law went to the government and said, he should be in the Army. And all of a sudden, I'm being chased around by, people. So I wound up, they grabbed a hold of me one time, and they wanted me for one charge. They were trying to charge me with something involving organized crime, and there was a bunch of stuff. And I said, you got nothing. I'm getting up and walking out. They said, no. Someone else is here that wants to see you. And it was the draft people. So I had to go I went up to Fort Dix to go through a physical. And I called some friends of mine. A doctor explained something to me. And I went up and went around, did the whole circuit, and you're coming around to get, the last thing they do is weigh you. And these guys came up with a folder because when I did the hearing test, I had the thing up to as high as you could take it before I pushed the button, and like I had a hearing deficiency, in one ear. So when I'm standing in line waiting to get weighed, and this guy comes up to me in the folder and says, we can't take you in the service. I should have got an Oscar that day. I sold my car. I left my wife. I said, what do you mean you can't take me in the service? He said, that's it. We can't. You have a medical here. But he said, we can't. I said, what'd you say? we can't take you in the service. And he said, you're physically unfit. And this is the funny part. The kid that was running the scale for weighing people in was one of the guys I knocked out in the garden. And he screamed, he wasn't physically fit today to knock me out. So I get out. I figure, here I am. I'm going home. I get out. They give me my thing. Boom, boom. I'm 4F now. Boom. So I go out to get in my car, and two guys come up beside me and said, John Gerald O'Halloran. I said, yeah, that's me. And I'm looking at their shoes, and they're not shiny, so they know they're not fit. And I said, what can I do for you people? He said, well, we're taking you to come to an office in New York. We want to talk to you. I said, who the hell are you? CIA. Bum, bum, bum. We want to have a conversation with you. I said, well, you're not leaving my car here, so one of you jokers is going to have to get in here and tell me where we're going, because I'm not leaving my car over here.
Right.
I go to New York, and I get inside this office, and they're going to start telling me all this bullshit. And I said, I got to make a phone call. And they said, okay. So I called Meyer Lansky's lawyer in Florida, and I said, told him what was going on. And he said, Jack, listen to every word they say, because you're going to have to go to Vietnam. You ain't going to have a choice. And they put together a crew called Night Crawlers. Look them up. Today, they're the most elite of the elite. In those days, we were a mercenary group to go into Vietnam. And we went out at night and brought anybody back from a lieutenant up back to be questioned. Cullen Powell ran our deal. 138 of us from different parts of America, all with pretty good backgrounds for weaponry and stuff. And spent 4 years in and out of that joint. In between boxing and that, I come home, take a fight, and then I go back again. And no one ever, weren't allowed to talk about it. Signed documents, couldn't talk for 30 years. I had no military record. Right. We never got paid by the military. We got paid by Avis Rent-A-Car, this company and that company. It was we spend a week here and a week there, and we were all over now. We used to come in through Cambodia. There was a good trip for you. We come in through Cambodia in a chopper, and come down along the Danang River and jump into the Danang River out of a chopper. Couple guys broke their legs, but that's okay. They didn't care.
Right. So now that you're out of boxing and all that, what do you think about the boxing today? What do you think about it? Was it?
It's a total, God, I'll tell you something funny. If somebody would have given me $1 million to get in a ring, you'd have to bring 2 guns with you. You know what I'm saying? When I started boxing, I got paid by a corporation syndicate. They paid me $150 a week to go train. And we got $10 a round for preliminary fights. There was no money until Ali got in the game. Ali is one that brought money into the game. Nobody made any money like they do today. And these guys are getting millions of dollars. And they only fight once a year. I had 79 fights in 9 years.
Wow.
I used to fight every other week. I'd fought in Europe. I'd take a fight anywhere. I had to go other business, take care of business that I was involved with my father's business. So I'd be in Detroit or this place or that place. And, I'd take care of business while I was there on the premise that I was fighting. It was my day job. I had to have a day job or you go to jail. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wasn't good at driving trucks or any of that shit. So.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, okay. Now, when you started doing movies back then, what is the difference between the movies back then and the movies now? You see any difference in the
first of all, they pay these guys too much money. You know what I mean? So it's just like athletes. Look at all your sports. People don't play the game for the love of the sport anymore. You don't have a lot of Larry Birds anymore. You don't have a lot of. They talk about big guys like the kid from Philadelphia and Embiid and all. When's the last time you heard him talk about Will Chamberlain? Will Chamberlain was one of the greatest big men that ever played the game.
Right.
He was an amazing athlete, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was a good friend of mine. He was crazy. But he was an amazing athlete. In fact, he was a better track star than he was even basketball player. He was a hell of an athlete. And he never made, if he got paid the money they're paying these guys, millions of dollars every year. Oh my God. So they've taken the sport away and people play for the money now. They get traded here, traded there, and it's sad because they've watered the thing down to, and boxing. These guys, how do you keep your mind on what you're doing? You only fight once a year. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy. Just to me. Now, when I retired from boxing, I took a young kid named Frankie Lyles and I made him super middleweight champ of the world.
Okay.
And we created Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach trained Pacquiao and everybody else. He started with Frankie.
Still going. You know
what I mean? So I took this young kid and made him middle. And I was training. I used to work out all the time. And they sent this kid from the Kronk gym. He was from Philadelphia. And they sent him from the Kronk gym to the Goosen gym out in L.A. And I was in the gym. And I was watching this kid work out. And I took him aside and I said, he was undefeated, 20 fights, 19 or 20 fights. I said, but he was a southpaw and he was very boring and stuff. And so they shipped him out of Kronk Gym. They sent him out to LA. And I told him, I said, if you do everything I tell you to do, kiddo, 6 months' time, I'll make you world champion. And he said, wow, man. And I moved him in my house. And I lived up on Mulholland Drive, and I took this kid and I ran him up and down canyons. I got him in the greatest shape he was ever in his life. And taught him just what he needed to learn. And he defended his title several times, very honorably. And went right down the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We didn't miss anybody. And we fought all over the world.
Right. So question. Yes. So question.
Yeah.
Who in the family trying to wear the shoes now? Who's the next box in the family? I know somebody want to be just like you, man. Who in the family want to be just like you?
Nah, you know what? I wouldn't, not the way. If I sat down with somebody today and trained them the way that I taught Freddie and stuff and different things, we could develop a champion. But you got to play too much politics in boxing, Yes. When I got Frankie, Don King controlled the super middleweight champion, and he was going to be the promoter for Frankie. So we got to the first couple fights, and he was over in Vegas, and I took a trip over, and I walked in his office. I said, here's the deal, Sonny. You got the super middleweight champ of the world, and you make a match between him and Frankie Lyles. Well, Jack, he said, you gotta let me get to make some money. I said, you're a promoter for both guys. Do you hear what I just told you? Find a place for us to fight, and you're fighting Frankie Lyles next for the title. Well, I said, did you hear what I just told you, son? And he knew who I was, so he just didn't say too much. And I knew quite a bit about him. So we fought then. So he picks a place down went down to Argentina. And he thought that he had the fight in his pocket, which was a joke. He had one judge, I had three. And the kid won the title. And we came back and we fought all over. Beat Cellier. We beat everybody.
Wow.
Frankie could fight. You look him up. He was a pretty good fighter.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah. It's amazing how these guys are still going, man. You got Bob Arum still going, Don King still going. Don King fleeced every fighter he ever managed. Oh, I've heard.
You see that kid Tyson? You see Tyson? Okay.
Yeah.
When the old man had Tyson was a better fighter. He bobbed and weaved. He was, When that guy died and Don King inherited him, Tyson stopped bobbing and weaving and started getting the shit beat out.
Right.
And when he went to jail, Don King took over the control of his house in Vegas, his money, and everything. I mean, just diabolical.
Yeah.
It was a joke. But,
right.
And Tyson wasn't that great of a fighter. And when he fought, he was going to fight Douglas. And Douglas was from Cleveland. And I called a friend of mine on the phone over in Vegas. And I said, and Douglas could really fight. He just didn't like fighting. He was fighting because his father pushed him into it. And he was always 30 pounds too heavy. So when he got the Tyson fight, he was training in Vegas, and I called up a friend of mine, Gene Kilroy, and I said, what's this kid look like in the gym? He said, Jack, he took off all the weight. He's training religiously. He's going to beat this guy. And the way to beat Tyson was anybody who threw a combination of 3 or 4 punches in a row, Tyson couldn't get away from them. He'd get away from the first one or the second one, but the third and fourth, and that's what Douglas did. Douglas just punched the shit out.
Yes, he did.
If you remember the fight, he beat him easy.
Yes, he did. Very easily. A lot of people lost a lot of money in that fight.
Well, I'll tell you what, the odds were like 40-1. You won. A lot of people won a lot of money in that fight.
We got a comment here that says Mike Tyson is the greatest fighter of all time.
Is this a comedy show?
It is sometimes. It is a comedy show sometimes.
Comedy show? Greatest fighter of all time was Muhammad Ali.
So he said greatest biter of all time.
Greatest biter.
Biter?
Yeah,
he bit off Holyfield's ear. There was some great old fight. I mean, God, you go back to some of these old timers that used to fight Walker, and then they fight welterweight, light heavyweights. They fought guys 160 pounds are fighting heavyweights.
Right, right.
There was some of the old timers were amazing fighters.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share some footage of Jack fighting and some of his clips from his movies for you all that haven't seen. So we're going to do that right now. Give Jack a break and let him enjoy some of his work, ladies and gentlemen, so we can enjoy some as well. Let's do that.
I think he's the only person that's ever scared Chuck Norris.
Chuck was a good kid. I had a good time doing here in the tower. Chuck is a good guy.
So let's do that right now.
That's the Foreman fight.
here goes YouTube acting crazy. Here we
YouTube
go.
hates us.
Right.
That's the George Foreman fight.
Yup, it sure is.
I trained a week for that one.
Wow.
I was beating him the first couple rounds, and I walked into a punch, boy, in the 5th round. And I was getting up. They stopped the fight right away. I said, wait a minute, man. Madison Square Garden.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that new movie about George Foreman.
George is a good guy. George is a funny guy, man. I tell you, he started. You can watch this.
All right, come on, YouTube. Stop playing games.
I know where he lives too.
George?
Yep.
All of his kids are named George. And I said to him one time, George, why do you name all your children George so I don't forget their name?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He was doing the grill, and he came to me and he said, Jack, you got to get involved in this thing with me. I said, well, get involved in what? His lawyer talked to my lawyer. They wanted me to invest in the grill with him. And I was doing something. I said, oh, man, I ain't got time for that jazz. What a mistake that was, huh?
Yeah, I happen to have one of those grills in the kitchen right now.
That's where he made his money. He made a fortune from the grills.
Yep. He lives outside of Houston.
What? George is a good guy.
Yep.
All right. Well, we got a little bit. We got a little bit of it. YouTube is acting crazy. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is Jackal Heron versus George Foreman. You can check it in its entirety on YouTube. Just not on this show. Just not in this show. But now we're going to try to share some of the clips of some of his acting and some of his movies. If I can pull it up here. All right, let's see what we got.
Well, the movies look just like the boxing match.
Yeah, we're gonna stop this, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna stop this, and now what we're gonna do, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go to yeah, so we're gonna do now, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna take a look at some of the clips from some of his movies. Let's see, let's do that. Let's hit battle play. Let's see here. Let's pull that up.
Farewell, my lovely. King Kong, that's Dragnet. Who's here in the show? Baltimore Bullet, Jimmy Khan.
So why don't you talk to us?
Well, there we go. You two playing the movies.
Right, Attorney's on his way. We both know I'll be out of here in 20 minutes on bail. So take off these cuffs and over the door.
I wouldn't worry about the door, Muzz. The kind of scum who'd represent you would just ooze right under it. Look, Joe, why don't you go get a couple of cups of coffee? I know I could use one. You want anything, Muzz?
Chewing gum, Snickers bar, and my attorney badge kisser.
I guess it's just you and me and your balls and this drawer. Why don't you make it easy on yourself and lead us to the stolen magazines?
Jump on this and spin, cop. I'm not saying another word until my attorney gets here.
Say, Joe, wouldn't a couple of Danishes go great with this coffee right now?
I have powers beyond reason here.
That was my lunch picture. My Oscar. Finally got my eyes here. There's the ball in my board.
Listen, my name is Wolf. I work with the Daily News. I'd like to take a shot at leaving. A what? Picture. Oh, you can really help me out. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what I want you to do. My car is right over there. Okay? When he comes out, just take your hat off and brush your hair a little bit. Oh, man. Gotcha.
Omar Sharif.
You're illegally parked. Let's move it. I said move it. Wise guy. Run off with my money, huh?
Come on now, watch it, huh? I'll settle up with you right after this match.
Oh, I'm going to get my money back.
What are you talking about? Money, your money.
I just made a little bet on this match.
Well, listen, I hope you made the smart bet because I'm favored.
Right, 6-5. That's why you're gonna lose.
What the hell do you say, man?
I got 30 grand on the short end. You're dumping.
Listen, I don't dump for anybody, man.
You don't seem to understand.
For you, Max, I'll dump.
That's more like it. No funny business, huh? I'll be watching. This is the Army's newest explosives. Don't make any noise. It's just gonna blow the door off. First, I'm gonna get my money back. And then I'm gonna take care of that son of a bitch, Nick Casey. He double-crossed me. You know what I mean? Fool.
Okay, Bone, how much you got here?
About 1,800.
1,800? What's going on?
There's Bagley.
Hey, Mr. Bagley. Something haywire. They only loaded me enough pipe to push one test hole. Less than 2,000 feet.
Yeah, that'll be enough. Are you kidding? Well, Quagaton, we didn't come until we were past 26,000 feet.
My girl Jessie. All right.
Swing.
Had first day training camp. You all clear out of here? I'll examine her now.
I guess you'll have to undress her, huh?
As usual. In case of internal injuries or multiple shock syndrome.
All right, go. Get out of here. Come on, clear out, fellas.
I was trying to stabilize below the belt when this guy the size of the Statue of Liberty walks up to me.
What are you, a cop?
No, I'm your fairy godmother. I started to walk away.
Private dicks, huh?
When a hand I could have sat in took hold of my shoulder.
What's your name?
Marlowe, what's yours?
Moose Marlowe.
Get down! He didn't bat an eye. Fear wasn't built into his giant frame.
I want you to work for me.
You let me guess. You want me to try to find the two guys that were trying to shoot you, huh?
I want you to find my Velma. I ain't seen her in 7 years. She ain't wrote 6.
Where the hell have you been for 7 years?
In the can. The Great Bend bank robbery. 80 grand. I did it solo. Ain't that something?
Yeah.
I want you to find my Velma.
Look, man, 6 years, that's a long time not to hear.
She'll have a reason.
I'm sure she will. Why the hell were they shooting at you?
Maybe we ought to go to Florian's. That's the last place my Velma worked.
What was she like, this, Belle?
Cute. Cute as lace pants.
That's something to go on. I had a million questions for Moose, but I knew he had only one thing on his mind.
Why don't you call?
How the hell do I know?
You told me my Velma would call. No, wait a minute.
I've been...
And it looks like YouTube has cut us.
Scratch,
Oh, there we go.
Punched, knocked unconscious, drugged, and shot at looking for you, Velma. So quit trying to make a milkshake out of my insides, will you? Come, stop it!
That's Jimmy Archer, Joey Archer's brother. The little guy, Jimmy Archer.
Hello?
It only took a second to know who he was talking to. You could see the 7 years inside melting off him.
Hi, man. It's been a long time. 15 minutes? I got it. Yeah.
Pay me back when you can. Come on, I'll drop you off.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Look, that was beautiful.
Yep. Uh-oh. somehow Tarek disappeared. Hey, Jack, you still doing the Superman conventions?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's
In fact,
been...
we're trying to put together. We have a great storyline to bring back Christopher Reeves and the three villains in hologram, and the villains become good guys and team up with Christopher to fight everybody coming from outer space.
I'm back, fellas. I'm back. Damn
I
YouTube,
you got ran out of the room. Yeah, nervous and ran away.
YouTube was like, I'm gonna kick you out. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for Mr. Jack O'Halloran, man. Hey, sir, great actor. You probably one of the best looking boxing actors. Definitely. So, out of all your work, sir, what was the best movie that you've done? Out of all that you've done?
Superman made us iconic actors, but Farewell was Farewell, My Lovely. When I did Farewell, My Lovely, Mitchum talked to Johnny Carson, and I was supposed to do the Johnny Carson show, and I met him at the Polo Lounge. And he wanted me to come on his show. And he said, if you come on my show, I'll get you nominated for supporting actor, which was a pretty good year. I got a good shot at winning it, actually. And I said to him, but your show is live, isn't it? He said, yeah. And so I said, well, I don't think I can do your show. He said, well, why? I said, because I'm going to come on the stage. You're going to ask me about my father, and I'm going to ask you where the men's room's out. He said, you would get up and leave? I said, yeah. I said, I don't talk about my father. I don't like people talking about him. He said, we'll give you a list of questions. And I said, John, you're the biggest news guy in Hollywood. And you have Albert on a stage, your son on your set, and you're not going to ask me about my father? Do I look like I fell off a turnip truck? And I said, thanks for the offer, but, and Mitchum, he screamed at me. He said, what is wrong with you? I said, yeah, you with your big mouth. He said, Jack, they love that shit in Hollywood. They were eating that up like crazy. Are you crazy? I said, well, that was stupid. I should have done the show, and probably would have a good chance of winning supporting Oscar that year. Farewell is a really good movie. You get a chance to see the whole film, you'll enjoy it.
So Jack was telling us about them bringing back Christopher Reeves and the three bad guys in Superman.
Right.
Yeah, we're trying to put a deal together now to we have a storyline that where the bad guys become good guys, and they get teamed up with Christopher Reeve and to fight all these people coming from outer space. But what we did is want to get away from all this killing. The good guys, these superheroes today are killing more people than the bad guys. So we're trying to get away from all that jazz, and we're reverse violence on it. We have a technology and my character was a scientist, a major scientist before they lobotomized him for playing around with Zod. So they reversed my lobotomy. And I go back into what I did before. And the first words I say in the new movie will be, Zod, kneel before Non.
Yeah, Ali Higg, you got to go back, brother. Yes, we're doing the show with ex-boxer, actor, author Jack O'Halloran. Yes, he fought George Foreman, Ken Norton. I guess Muhammad Ali cowered out. He didn't want to fight him. But other than that, yes, he's definitely an ex-boxer. Yes, indeed. You gotta go back and check it out from the beginning. But Jack, sir, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Appreciate you. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Yes, indeed. So what? Matter of fact, before we go, man. How do people get to find you on your social media? Facebook, Twitter,
yeah,
Instagram?
I'm Facebook. I'm all over the place. Call me on the phone and say hello.
All right.
We're getting ready to do a picture called Red River in Nevada. It's a great horror picture with a Faust twist to it. Kind of neat. Right. Really kind of a cool little film.
All right. What's the name of your book again, sir? The name of the book? Your book?
Family Legacy.
Family Legacy. All right. Brother, you got any final words, brother?
Well, you can check out the interview that I did with Jack And Jack, are we still going to try to work on doing a podcast together?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I know he was looking for sponsors for us. And then
yeah, I talked. In fact, I'm going up to Boston on the 9th of the month, and we're going to have a chat about that.
Sweet.
Awesome,
So, yeah,
awesome.
be looking for that. I did an interview with a guy named Will Hawkins yesterday from a band called 9 Mile Station.
All right.
And that is going to be out in a couple of hours. And I got a few other musicians coming up this week, so come on over to the Vibes broadcast, check them out, and please subscribe. We've been racking up quite a bit of subscribers lately, so I thank y'all for that.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, if you're coming in late to the show, please go to the beginning and check it out. Mr. Jack O'Halloran, ex-boxer, actor, author. I heard your name, sir, before the show, and I was like, I've heard of this guy before, but I didn't know he was in all those movies, and I was like, wow. Yeah. very talented.
Just a country boy.
What's that, sir?
Just a country boy.
Hey, a very talented country boy at that.
Great guy, really great guy.
Yes, indeed. Like I said, once again, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for blessing us with your stories and your life. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. Do me a favor. Please go. Like, share, subscribe to my brother from another mother, Mr. Coyote. The Vibes broadcast, great interviews, life coaches, paranormal activity, comedy, all that good stuff. He also does an interview with Mr. Jack O'Halloran as well on his channel. Go check it out. Also, please go subscribe to my brother from another mother, Mr. Nico Legan. He come on every Friday, Mr. Masculinity. Everybody, all men need more masculinity. Don't no man around here got a whole bunch of masculinity. Nico can give it to you. Ladies.
I don't think Jack needs any help in that department.
Send your men to Nico. He can get you where you need to be, ladies and gentlemen. He get your men where you need to be, your sons where you need to be. Nico again, he'll be on every Friday. And ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. Turn your notifications on. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with Mr. Ferrari.
Vic Ferrari, yep.
Yes, Vic Ferrari, ex-NYPD officer, author. Hey, I'm looking forward to the interview tomorrow. 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Central Time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And fellas, I love y'all like a fat boy love cake. Thank y'all so much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Thanks, Jack.
Just me and you. Something's going on, there's pain inside. We'll figure it out, we'll take the time. I'll see you in the morning, I'll say to you, come on, let's talk, just me and you. Something's going on, there's pain inside. We'll figure it out, we'll take the time. My heart feels light, I know that I'm okay. Then I realize that nothing hasn't changed. The weight of the world was tearing up my life. Now it's making sense that it's all in my mind. I'll see you in the morning, I'll say to you, come on, let's talk, just me and you. Something's going on, there's pain inside. We'll figure it